Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this workshop. And it's all about website design and common mistakes to avoid. Let me go ahead and move this down so that way you won't be interrupted by seeing people popping in and out. But thank you again for joining us today so we can discuss website design and common mistakes to avoid. My name is Brittany Millington, and I'm a brand strategist and designer, founder of BM Design. It is based in Palm Beach County. I'm also a 1909 member. We are an organization of entrepreneurs who help other entrepreneurs in the area to connect, network, pass around ideas as well. And also I'm a Squarespace Circle member, which means I'm an expert at Squarespace website. And I'll discuss the importance of hiring somebody if you decide to, how important it is to hire an expert in whatever platform you're using. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. Also, I love plants. I wish that I could keep them alive a lot longer than I used to, but I have a lot of fake plants, but I'm also soon to be a human mama. So if you see me a little bit out of breath or drinking some water, it's because she's coming soon. Also, I'm the oldest of 8 kids. And I always say that that was my practice ground for a brand strategist, learning how to deal with different people and how to help them individually get to the goals that they want to achieve. So I always thank my mom for that in perspective now. But that was a starting ground for me of learning how to handle different ones and the different situations they have, but that sparked a passion in me to help others achieve their dreams. So not going to get too much deeper into that before I get emotional. And also too, I love HGTV and Food Network. I'm actually the digital graphic designer for the South Beach Food and Wine Festival. Many people are familiar with it because of the huge tents and the events that they have down in South Beach. They're going to have it next year, February 24th to the 27th. I enjoyed working with them. It's my 3rd year working with them, but that's just a little bit to introduce yourself to me. And it's nice to meet you. Also, I would like to say thank you to Lake Worth Beach for hosting this event. Last week, we had a workshop on branding. And this week, we're going to web design because they wanted to encourage local businesses in these particular areas so they can step into the new year branding better and making an impact on their goals. So definitely want to thank them and give them a round of applause for putting on this workshop for free for everyone. So what are we going to discuss today? Well, why websites are needed, basic elements to help you to create your website. If you have a website or plan on having one in the future for your business, ways to improve it. Also keeping your customers engaged with your website, and also reviewing what's going to be on the download that you receive after this presentation. Now, one of the things that I like to tell my clients in any small business that I encounter is that you don't have to be big, selling the most, or anything that makes you feel that you don't deserve to have a website. You know, that you have to be this standard to have one. A lot of businesses I've talked to, especially small ones, they feel like they don't have enough to be able to put onto a website. But I'm here to say a website is a dynamic tool that evolves over time, but you want to be able to start somewhere where we are very familiar with it, and over time continue to improve it, continue to add more to it, continue to build upon it. But if you feel like you don't have enough, I'm pretty sure you do have enough, even if it's for a one-page website. And this quote here is one of the reasons why. Your website is the center of your digital ecosystem, like your brick and mortar location. That experiences matters once a customer enters just as much as the perception they have of you before they walk through the door. A lot of times before we even go to a store, or maybe we may find someone on social media and we want to look at them like separate from that environment, we want to see if they have a website where we can gain more information. And a lot of times it creates legitimacy. It also creates a constant contact with your brand, your business, 24 hours a day, if you do have that available. And there are other benefits as well as having a website that I will go into as well. But it's also part of the brand experience too, as far as having your website, because it also helps them to be introduced to your brand, especially if you have a brick and mortar store, to be able to see what they may encounter before they even walk through the door. So it's like an introduction. So why is it important to have a website? Well, you may not be surprised, or you may be surprised that a lot of small businesses do not have a website for one reason or another. But not having one can be an issue because it can make it harder to find you online. Also to credibility. And again, I spoke about how a lot of times we may research a particular brand by seeing if they have a website, maybe seeing if they have reviews or whatnot as well. But having that website can also create a sense of credibility. A lot of us are used to making sure that we try to do a little bit of research more these days into the brands that we buy into. Also, you don't own the page on social media platforms. Now, I'm not here to say that social media is bad for your business, that you shouldn't have a business page on the different social media platforms. It's actually a good thing to be able to have that, to be able to introduce potential customers to your business. However, you do not own the page on the social media platform. If they want to take you off or an accident happens and you can't get back on, there's plenty of stories as well, especially with Facebook, when someone's locked out of their business page, that is, or it comes down because of what maybe somebody has said or whatnot on there. And then 2 weeks ago, when those social media platforms went down for hours, well, if your customer was searching for you and you didn't have a website, they couldn't find you if you were solely using social media pages as the only way for your customers to engage with you. So that's also a reason why there's an issue with not having a website, especially if you're only using social media platforms. That can be a huge issue. So what can you do? Well, you can create your own website, especially if you're computer savvy and you don't mind putting the time into work. It can take some time to do that. So definitely want to do research as well, as far as what platform is going to be the best one for your business. If you're selling products and services, products, Shopify may work for you. If you are selling a service, maybe Squarespace, but you can also sell products as well on Squarespace. Just as well, you can sell services as well on Shopify. However, they have their advantages, disadvantages in both. So put in the work and do the research as far as what website platform may work well for you. And also, two, get inspired, not deflated. Sometimes when we see other people's website, we may feel like, I don't have enough to put onto the website. However, I would encourage you to do a word count on maybe one or two websites that you like to go to and see actually how many words are actually on that page. You may be surprised that some may have 500 words on there, maybe less, but you don't have to have a lot of information or words on a website for it to be effective. Having the right words, yes, but having a lot, you don't have to. And it's all about how it's placed and et cetera, which I'll get into design later. But you want to use the inspiration of the websites to give you ideas to help you to see how your website could potentially be or be what you want it to be, especially if you hire a website designer. Again, if you have the means to hire a website designer, especially if it's not your cup of tea to design websites, I would highly suggest that because that will save you time, money, headache as well in the long run if you do hire a designer. As I mentioned before, when you're hiring someone, make sure that they are an expert at the platform and make you feel comfortable as well, and make sure that you understand why the platform is going to work for you. So I will say that again, if you're going to hire a website designer, make sure they're an expert at the platform, and also make sure that they help you to understand to where you're comfortable and you understand that this platform that they suggest to you is going to work best for you. And the benefit of hiring a web designer who has a specialty in the particular platform that's going to work best for you is that you're going to get the most bang out of your buck. And also, two, you're going to get the best out of them because this is what their expertise are in that particular platform, which means your website is going to be done quicker, more efficient. They're going to have resources for you to be able to navigate the website and to make sure that it is workable for you and user-friendly for you as well. Another thing as well that you can do is know your customers. And I'll get to that in a moment as well, because when you are putting a website together, it is helpful if you know what your customers' needs are, and that's going to help you to understand what needs to be in your website versus what you don't need. And also, too, having a core goal. And as far as what is this website is going to do or needs to do for your brand and your business. Excuse me. That will also help you as well when putting your website together. If you don't have a core goal, you may have shiny object syndrome and just doing other things that people are doing, but that may not be aligned with what you need to do for your brand and your business and for your customers. So having a core goal is going to be helpful to help you to know what needs to be on your website. Because when you have a website, the main focus should be, what action do you want people visiting your website to take? Is it to buy your products? Is it to sign up to your newsletter? Is it to gain information and then buy into your product? What are the things that you want people to do when visiting your website? That should be your focus. And that's, again, going to help you to figure out what content needs to be on your website, what information is more important, what doesn't need to be on your website if it doesn't align with what action you want your customers to do. And that could be anything that's going to help, whether it's bringing brand awareness, making them understand the benefits, understanding the information when it comes to your products and your services. Like, Think about that, and that would be very, very helpful. Because when you do that, that's going to help you to create a plan for your website. And that's going to be knowing what content to create, what pages to create. If you know what it is that you want your customers to actually do. Here are some main website pages that generally any website would have, which is a home page, an about page, your services, products page, and a contact page. At the very minimum, that you will have this information within your website or these areas within your website. And again, when you are creating content for each page, think about what it is that you want the customer to get from each page, or what action do you want them to take on each page. That will help make it easier for you to come up with the content to put on there. Again, it doesn't have to be a book. It doesn't have to be paragraphs and paragraphs of text. But if you can just pinpoint what it is that you want them to do and how to put that into writing in a few sentences in different places, that's going to be very helpful. And if you'd like to take a screenshot of this, I am going to include a prompt into your resource that you're going to download. But even with my own clients who struggle to be able to come up with content to be able to put onto their pages, this is some of the information that I give to them. On your homepage, you can talk about who you are, what you do, why should it matter to someone, what are the benefits of your services or products, show who you are, maybe with a team picture, or maybe have pictures on the home page that the customer can actually see themselves in. And call to action. And call to action should be on all pages. And the call to action, I'll get into later what that is. On your about page, of yourself, of your team, a short introduction. What is your mission? What is the brand story? How did you come about with your business? Create an emotional connection with your customers so they can see, oh, this is why this business exists. When it comes to your services or your products page, a little short introduction, and you can have little snippets of maybe the benefits of your services or products. And when somebody clicks on it, if they need more information, they can go to the sales page of it if you have that. But again, this is some information you can have on there in a contact page. There are plenty of other pages that you can have for your website, but it also depends on, again, if you know what your customers need. And that would be helpful for you going forward when you're creating a plan of the pages that you need and what content needs to go on those pages. So I just want to check in with everyone. Is everybody okay? And want to make sure if I'm going too fast or too slow, please let me know. I just want to make sure I check in with you. If you can give me a thumbs up. If everybody can still hear me just fine. Just want to check in. We're all good? Okay, great. And when it comes to some of the questions that are being asked, I would definitely get to it at the moment, but at the end, but I would definitely come back to your questions just to let you know, to answer those. We'll have a short Q&A at the end, but thank you so much. All right, going back to the presentation. When you have your website, make it simple to understand. So I'm pretty sure you've had this look on your face of this poor dog who looks very confused when you go to a website and you're like, what? Right? Make the copy simple to understand. Don't make it vague to where somebody has to try to figure out what do you mean, or try to be clever with your copy that they're not going to understand it. When you are creating your content, any text that you're going to be using, try to avoid using jargon that you may use in your industry that your customers may not completely know and understand. So, example for myself, I wouldn't put on my website, understand your hex codes and understand your positioning and et cetera, when it comes to brand strategy and design and things that I would talk to my own colleagues about. Well, my clientele wouldn't translate that as quickly or wouldn't understand what that means if I just tell them I'm going to help them to understand what their colors are and how to make sure that they're able to be consistent with that from one touch point to another. If I'm going to tell them, I'm going to help them to make sure that their customers understand who they are clearly without any confusion. That's going to help my customers to understand what I could do for them better versus me using jargon. And also to avoid using unnatural language as well is going to be helpful. Another thing that you can do if you are struggling with coming up with copy and content for your website is to hire a copywriter as well. They are wonderful because they can take all the things in your mind and put it into text that is understandable and is a lot easier for people to digest if that's a big struggle for you. Again, if you have a business and you're invested in it, rather you hire someone or to do these things for you, it will pay off in the long run to be able to do that. Another thing that you can do when making it simple as well is use storytelling. People these days, when they are buying into a brand, they enjoy a good story that they can connect to. If we think about the advertisements we see today, the websites we go to, rather it's through imagery on their website or the text that's being read on the website, sometimes it's in a storytelling form. So if you're able to relate a story of how your product or services help someone, that may be helpful to put onto your website. Help them to imagine what they're buying into, right? With the content that you're putting into your website, place them as the hero in how your brand is helping them to achieve whatever goal. That can be helpful as well with the text that you may be putting on your page. Even with a product, as far as like how maybe if you're selling necklaces and how it is going to help them feel more confident or feel more business-like, because when they put it on, they look professional and they feel like they can do whatever in the world. Just how can you help them to imagine how your service or product is going to help them? Always focus and think about the customer when you are putting your content together for your website. That is going to help you when it comes to getting that information together. And I've emphasized this a lot. I know I've said a lot as far as content put together, but this is where a lot of people have issues with, because they feel like they don't know where to start as far as what to write, what images to use, how is it that they're going to actually put it into the website. are the common issues as far as when getting started. So I hope that some of this information has helped there. Also, when it comes to planning, I'm a visual person. A lot of my clients are visual people as well. And having a flow chart can help you to visualize how your website functions and connects. Now, this is an example for a website I've done for Aesthetic Sage. And they have multiple different services and services they like to have in the future. So we was like, okay, but what is it going to look like? How many clicks is it going to take for someone to get to a particular area that you want them to focus on? So create a flow chart for them so that they can visually see how the different pages in their website works together. That's also going to help you too to be able to tell your customers how to navigate your website, which I've seen some people have issues with as well. But if you can visualize it and put into a flow chart, or have someone who's working with you to put into a flow chart, that's going to be helpful as well. That also can help you too when you're thinking about the pages you need to put into your website. Is it too much? Is it too little? Does it make sense for your customers? What would you like? How would you like for your customers to navigate your website? That's something that you can do with a flow chart. And also too, it's called a sitemap as well. And just to go a little bit further into sitemaps, when you have a flow chart like this, is going to be helpful when you are working with someone as well, and who may be working for your brand or your business, to tell them, okay, these are the pages that I want you to point people to, or whatever the case is. You have a visual of your website can be very, very helpful. Now that we talked about your content, you also want to gather it as well. I am very file management nerdy. Like I believe in having a lot of order as far as gathering those things into your folders. Most of the things that you're going to need are your images for your website. Know the type of fonts that you want to use for your website as well. And when it comes to your fonts, it's okay to have like a headline font. Maybe this would be your headline fonts that you have. Maybe this is your second header that you may have. And then this may be the body copy. If you want to put emphasis on things, you can always bold the copy. But having more than, let's say, 3 different type of fonts on your website is not going to make your website more interesting. It may make it a bit confusing, but you want to give your audience direction with the fonts that you're using. We're supposed to look at first, second, and third, and to create consistency from page to page. And also too, especially if you're working with someone, they're going to want to have information as far as what do you like to see in the fonts that you want to use on your website. And that's going to be helpful. When it comes to your colors, you want the colors of your brand to be used within your website. Doesn't have to be loud on your website, but it can be helpful to know the colors that you want to use, and also know the colors that you don't want to use on your website as well. That's going to be helpful too. The copy, we talked about the text. Again, this prompt here talked about it as well when it comes to knowing who you are for your home page, copy for your about page, your services, contact, and any other pages that you may have. Having that information is going to be helpful if you have that ahead of time when you do put your website together. Another area is SEO. It's going to be descriptions and keywords for your website to help it to be searchable. There are SEO, search engine optimization, is what SEO stands for, by the way. There are SEO experts out there who can help you to boost that and improve it on your website, that can make your website searchable to your clientele a lot faster and easier on Google and other platforms as well. For each page that you have, it would be beneficial for you to come up with a short couple of sentences on what that page is about. Also, too, if you have images, instead of just leaving it this random name that the camera or this or whatever program that you use, whatever name it gave it, label it. Believe it or not, Google does read the names of images, and so that can even be helpful to you as well. In the back end, if you have keywords that you know that your customers use a lot, if you know those things, that could be used as keywords in the background of your website. In the back end of your website, along with putting in that to descriptions as well. And most platforms have an area within the back end where you can input descriptions and keywords in. And when I say platforms, that's your Squarespace, your Wix, your WordPress, even GoDaddy has a website platform. So anywhere that you're going to be hosting your website on, they should have areas of where you can input descriptions and keywords. Another thing to do for your website is to have strong call to actions. So when you don't have a strong call to action, it can leave the visitors confused on what to do, and they don't have a clear distinction of the call to actions on buttons or links. If you can see on the screen here, this little button down here, let's see if I can take this for you. So this little button down here stands out from everything else. But if you just have it as a link, and it doesn't stand out as other parts in your website, that button can get easily lost. So if you do have call to actions on your website, you definitely want to make sure that they stand out as much as possible, so that way people know, hey, I probably want to click on this to do X, rather than sign up for your newsletter, or rather that's buying a product, or rather that's going to a particular page that you want them to go to. Also, to make it simple and make it easy to understand as well. When it comes to your, here are my drawings, thank you. When it comes to your call to actions. So simple, add to cart, get started today, contact us today, yes, sign me up, buy now. Be obvious with your calls to action. When it comes to the buttons, now that they've read the information of whatever it is that you want them to do, this is the action button to get them to actually do it. If you are trying, especially if you're trying to sell a product or a service. So it is helpful for you to be able to have clear call to actions, direct them exactly what you want them to do. You want it to be obvious. You don't want it to be vague. You don't want to say like, would you be interested in starting today? You want to say, get started today, start now, buy now, save now, would be helpful. And now I want to go into a few things when it comes to if you already have a website, or things to think about once you have a website, if you're going to have it for your brand or business. Please maintain your website, because if you're not maintaining a website, it is going to make Google think that you are a non-active website. So it's most likely not to rank you. A lot of people love to be on that first page when somebody searches something related to their business. However, you want to make sure that you are maintaining your website, making it active. If you have a website already, older information is never updated, it's not helpful. And also, if you have broken links that's never been fixed, that's not helpful as well. If you have a website now and you have not touched it in months, now would be a good time to go to your website, maybe update some information about your products or services. If there are things that are happening new within your business that you want to make sure is on the home page or the about page about you, about your service, about your business, update it, change some text or some words, add new pictures if you have it. Your website is a living, active, live, functioning piece in your business. If it's not used, Google is less likely to use it. If the information is outdated and never been updated in months, especially years, that can be an issue as well. Especially if you are on social media and you are posting a lot of different things, and that's new and fresh information, but you didn't put on your website. So if they do go to your website and have one, and they see a clear difference, that can put a taint on the brand experience, because there's now feeling like they may be looking at something that's not matching up. So I would highly, highly suggest that if you already have a website, to maintain it. There's different ways to do this, as I mentioned before. Another way as well is to create blog posts. And a lot of people may be worried about writing a blog post, but maybe you can just share, if you have a new service or a new product, maybe just share a few things about the product or services that you have created. That can be a way. Again, it doesn't have to be paragraphs and paragraphs of text. Maybe it's just a paragraph and a few pictures can be the blog post. That can be very helpful. You can also run analytics on your website. Google has services, a lot of them for free, that can help you to run analytics or stats on your website. Let's say it can tell you if you have a lot of pictures on your website that's weighing you, that's causing your website to upload slowly, or maybe that you have broken links. And I'll have a link to where you can go to run analytics on your website and the resource I'll be providing. Also, what you can do is hire help to help you to see where you can improve. Again, I mentioned earlier, SEO experts, a web designer who can actually see things that you may not see, may be wrong with your website. That can be helpful as well. If your website is not responsive, if you already have a website, that can make a poor user experience. A lot of people look on their phones for what I'll slow up. Excuse me. A lot of people look on their phones when they're looking at websites, and if it's not user friendly, people just move on to the next because it's either the text is too big or whatnot, or it's not moving properly. That's not always a big issue today, But I would encourage you, if you do have a website, see how it looks on the phone and see if it needs some improvements. Ask a friend to navigate your website on their phone and see if there's some things that can be adjusted on there, or what they do they see. Is it working? Is it friendly? Or does it need some improvement? So again, you can hire help. Less is better. I show comparison. You want there to be similarities as well when it comes to what it looks like on a desktop or a laptop versus what it looks like on a phone. You don't want it to be so drastically off when it comes to the design of your website. Another thing as well is lack of contact information can actually have you losing leads. So if you don't have a clear way or multiple ways for people to contact you, that can be an issue. So it's great to have a contact page. I encourage everyone to have a contact page. Most people are used to seeing someone have a contact page, so having one would be great. But also too, have multiple ways of where people can contact you from page to page. Rather, an easy way to do this is making sure that on the footer of your website, which should look exactly the same from page to page, you can have your contact information down there. You can have a call to action from page to page on each page to be able to contact you if they want more information. So make sure that there are multiple ways for people to contact you, and don't let it be so vague. Make it obvious. And so I mentioned the ways that you can do it. And then also another thing, if you have a website, is that you want to avoid having poor content on there. If you have way too much content, as far as way too much text, way too much pictures, people have to scroll and scroll and scroll on your page. That can be a potential to turn away business because people are not going to want to look at that. Or try to read through all that and decipher. People want to make a decision quick. That's why I encourage, yes, you do want to have content on your page, but it doesn't have to be so much. Straight to the point is going to be more beneficial than 5 paragraphs of text. Having content that represents your business well. Do you need to invest in having professional photos of your picture, of your services or your products? Do you need to invest in making sure that the text that's on your page reflects the value of your business? Make sure that the content that you have in your website matches what exactly is that you do, so that way it represents your business well. Make sure your website is easy to navigate, because if you don't, it can make someone want to leave because they don't know where to go. And also too, you don't want to build this trust when you have poor content. So what can you do? Less is more. Just having clear, simple information to take in is a lot helpful than having your website look super busy. And I have some examples that I will show you in a moment. When you have your website, let's say that your brand is, a lot of different colors. Well, try to minimize how you use those colors. It is a good practice not to use more than 5 colors, and especially on a page. You want to keep it as simple as possible. There are ways to do it. Maybe different tabs, maybe different colors, something like that. But you want to keep it simple. Avoid unnecessary designs. There's so many different things you can do with a website, especially these days, to make it more dynamic and more interesting or whatnot. But it doesn't mean that you have to do it, especially if it doesn't work for who your customers are. Is it necessary? If it's not necessary, don't try to have things flying across your screen because it looks cool, but does it serve a purpose? If it doesn't serve a purpose for your brand, I would suggest not using those type of elements or dynamics in your design if it doesn't serve a purpose for your brand. And again, use graphics that reflect the tone of your business, right? So if you are a business for kids, you want to use kid-friendly pictures and kid-friendly fonts. You don't want to use sophisticated, upscale fonts and things if that's not your clientele, if that's not the money that they're going to be paying. So make sure that it matches your business. So I know we went over a lot, but now we're going to get into looking at some good and bad examples and some things to keep in mind once you have all these pieces put together, from the content, what you're going to put, how's it going to be organized, you collected everything, and now you're putting it together, or you may see things that you want to improve on your website. Well, this is a quote here. Good design is actually a lot harder to notice than poor design, in part because good design fits our needs so well that the design is invisible. You know that your website is doing its job if people can go to your website and do exactly what you need them to do. If it is too busy, not getting clicks, you're not getting people visiting and staying there, then you may need to make some adjustments, and analytics can help you to do that. And also the platforms that you have your website on, they track the traffic of your website as well, that you can view that information. And that can be an indication for you if there are things that you can do to improve it. So what is a good and bad example? These are both extreme of good and especially of the bad. Both are car sellers, right? But one website design and information is a lot easier to take in than the other one. If you can see here for the Toyota one, you can see that they have an easy navigation system. They have their call to actions here. If you want to talk to them right now, if you want to contact a dealer, if that's straight what you want to do, and then they have their second navigation here of different things that people may come to them for. They have here, what is their main focus, maybe for that particular season. And you can see here they have like 5 different areas of text. It's just short, but if somebody wants to gain more information about whatever that sentence is, they can click on it and go to get more information. But you can see here, it's not a lot of text in reality on this particular page. If you scroll on their website, it's not a lot of text, but people want to gain more information because now you're allowed to take in what they're viewing. Then they can do that even further on different pages that they go to. Now this one here too, up under the bad, they're selling cars too, but they try way too hard. And again, this is an extreme, but this is what some people may do when it comes to putting their website together. They may feel they have to put so much information so close together and be very loud to try to catch attention. That's not going to be helpful. Some people may see this and just go somewhere else because they don't know where to look first, right? That's something that you want to avoid when creating your website, is making it harder for someone to actually know what you want them to do and to take in the information, and even design-wise. Again, this is extreme, but this is to help you to understand the contrast of, hey, You can have simple, clear information onto your website, and then you can always allow for people to go further down the line, but it doesn't have to be like this bad example. You cram in so much that is too much to be taken in. It's okay, you don't have to do that. Also, too, another thing to be aware of, especially when it's using colors, especially on computers, that you want to have good and bad contrast. I mean, that you want to have good contrast, not bad. You don't want to have bad contrast because you want people to easily take in information on your website, not to feel like that it's super hard to read. As you can see here, especially in this bottom right one, that bad example is super hard to read. If you have brand colors that are bright or loud, it's best to use them on a very contrasting background color, rather white or black, but you don't want it to get lost. And also too, something to keep in mind, some people are colorblind. So when you have good contrast on your website, especially if you like to use colors, you want to be mindful of that. That is going to be something that's easy to read, especially because a lot of us are on our computer so much, and it can strain our eyes over time. You want to be mindful of that when it comes to colors. A few reminders when it comes to designing your website is you want to make sure it communicates who you are, what you're about. You want to keep it simple and always think about the customer when you are putting your website together. Again, think about what it is that you want them to do, and let that be a guiding compass as far as how your website should actually function as well. And I want to say thank you, and we're going to get to some Q&As, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen and answer some questions for you guys. Okay, so I see some questions were in the chat, so I'm just going to answer some of those things for you guys. Someone asked about platforms and what are a couple examples of different platforms. So when I mentioned platforms earlier, they are the websites that they are hosted on. They're the hosts of your website, sorry. So for example, if you are using Squarespace, that's a platform. That if you're using Wix, that's a platform. If you're using WordPress, that's a platform. So hopefully that was able to answer your question. But when you have those platforms, those are going to be very helpful if you understand how they work as well, where you can be able to see the traffic, the analytics. You can be able to see where you can put in your SEO information, such as your description keywords as well. All of them have different ways of doing that. Another question that someone asked about is, well, you may have other websites that you can sell on, which would be, you have your eBays, you have your Etsy's, you have your Amazons that have stores as well, that you can actually sell your products on. And there may be benefits to doing that. You can even have your own website and have buttons to your products or services, or especially your products, more likely, that connect to those pages for those products that you sell on those other websites, such as Etsy or eBay or Amazon as well. I know businesses that who do that, where they have their website as a means of one-on-one communication with their customers. So that way they can have them by themselves. right? Because when you are on those different platforms like Etsy or eBay or Amazon or whatnot, they're not only showing your services, or I'm sorry, your products, but they're also showing other people products as well, right? So it is helpful if you do have still a website where people can just focus on your brand and services. And if they want to purchase it, if you have your reasons on it may be cheaper or whatever case is to have them buying it through Etsy or eBay or Amazon, then you could just create a direct link to that particular page where you can buy it from. But you can't do that. Another question, was I able to answer the call to action? Doesn't necessarily mean to navigate the website. It means really, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to buy? Do you want them to sign up for your newsletter? Do you want them to download a free asset? What it is that you want them to do. Someone asked about base price to pay for a web designer. So I would say this when it comes to paying for a website is that if you're going to invest into a website, be prepared for a good one. Be prepared to spend more than 4 figures. So let's say your website can be maybe 3,000, depending on if it's a plain website, not having a lot to do as far as, you have your text, your images and whatnot, but it's beyond just putting the text and images there. It's also to the design and how it flows and how it works as well, setting everything up for you, helping you to understand it or whatnot. There are people who pay tens of thousands of dollars for a website, especially if they have a lot of products that they're selling as well. I would say for somebody to do a good job, if you can be able to swing, being able to pay a few $1,000s for your website, that will help you to start off better than paying a few $100s. Because if you're paying for a few $100s, and I mean, it's great if you can find somebody who can give you the moon and stars for a few $100s, but you may not get the best quality of website that you can get if you only pay a few $100s for a website. Hopefully that answers your question, but in my experience, if like 5,000 for a basic website, more if there's a lot more involved in dynamics to it. The question about can you change hosts and platforms? Yes, you can. You definitely can. Sometimes it may be harder depending on what your situation is, but you can change your host and platform, especially if it comes to the most of the time I get that question is pertaining to the domain name. So for example, I host my website on Squarespace. My domain name is brittanydesign.com. If I wanted to down the line change my platform or host to GoDaddy or to WordPress or Wix, you can transfer your domain name to that next host or platform that your new website is built on. So that way they can be able to still get to your website through that same domain name. So hopefully I answered that in an understandable way, but you can do it. But most of the time people are afraid, will I still be able to use my domain name? You should be able to transfer your domain name to any website, host, or platform. There's ways to do it to be able to do that. Another question is, how do you get a high score on SEO so your company comes up first? Okay, so that can take time of your website being up. Some people will love for the first day that their website is launched that it pops up first. So if you are not, if you don't have someone who is SEO savvy and that can really get into the back end of your website to implement SEO techniques and strategies into your website, it may take a while for it to start to generate some interest, but definitely it can take some time of you putting information to your website, making sure it's updated, making sure the links are not broken, making sure that Google, that you do things too so Google doesn't think that it is dead, quote unquote, or not usable. Another thing you can do, as I mentioned before, is to hire a SEO expert that can actually help you to rank faster and quicker. There are techniques that they know to be able to do things on the back end that can help you to rank first and to be a lot quicker and searchable as well. Hopefully I answered that question, by the way. Another question is, what determines how many pages? Do you pay based on the number of pages? Sometimes you do pay based on the number of pages. I may have a set price for the websites that I design, but if it goes over so many pages, I do have like any pages outside of this scope that are needed will cost X for each page. What determines the pages that you need is unique to your business and what you need to have. So some people who have products, they may need more pages than they realize, because let's say that you have 10 different products, which means that now you need to have information for those 10 different products. And that's along with your home page, your about page, your contact page, any other pages that you may have for your site. So what determines how many pages you have is really what it is that you know that your customers need to know. And again, that can grow over time. I wouldn't suggest that you become, or hopefully you don't become overwhelmed thinking that you need to have a whole bunch of pages at the moment, but it's based off of what main pages do you need, and then also to what pages do your customers need to access. Do they need to have a frequently asked question page? Do they need to have more details about a particular service? Do you need to separate the different categories? Let's say, for example, for Sage, for Aesthetic Sage, they wanted to have different pages so people can focus on only before and afters, only wedding pictures, only other event pictures. So besides having a main page that had all the pictures on of what their beauty services that they offered, that was one, but they also felt that it was important for their customers to be able to focus on those other 3 areas. So that was an additional 3 pages, for their site. So hopefully that answer helps as well, as far as like what is it that you want your customers to be able to focus on too. Make sure I try to cover other questions as well. What determines how many pages? Talked about that. Simple web page price. Again, it varies with who you're dealing with. When it comes to prices for a website, or even for a single page website, You could pay, you could pay a few $100s if it's, something that somebody doesn't mind doing it for, or you may pay maybe a couple of grand if it's just a simple one page, but it's really about making sure that that web page is going to be effective and do its job. How do you create a main page with links to like a members only website? So you sound like a membership only website where they have like a password to get into a certain area. Hopefully, because how do you create a?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just on a website
Mhm.
and there was a main page with information about the Rare Fruit Council. And then it said that you could after you join, you can gain access to their members only website. So how would you have a members only?
Well, some websites or platforms now are offering like membership pages where they can have like a password and a username and password and then access those particular pages that are for members only. So it can be created, it just depends on the platform. There's also ways of creating pages within the website that's not visible to everybody else as well. So let's say like if you have a membership page that you only want people who pay to be able to see that information, the simple way to do that would be not making it public, but making it password accessible is a way that you can do that as well. So there's a couple ways you can do it. Rather or not, the host of your website allows you or offers that services for you to have the membership option of pages to go to. A way around that would be to create pages that are only password accessible. And then those people who pay for those services, they get the password to be able to access those pages. Is another way to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so would a 3D picture be too much and cause distractions or more interest? Well, a 3D picture, it depends if it serves its purpose for your business. It's not that it's going to be a distraction or it's going to definitely cause more interest, but is it serving the right purpose? Is it that, it gives off the right vibe to your brand, to your business that that your customers are interested in seeing, that they get it? Again, anything that you put into your website, it has to serve a purpose. If it's not necessary, I always advise not to add it. But if it serves a purpose for your business that you know is going to work, then try it. And you can also just try it out too. Like anything that you put on your website is not set in stone. Websites change all the time, are updated all the time. Why can't yours? Right? So you can try it, see if it's something that vibes well. If it serves a purpose and it connects with your audience, it's aligned with your brand, and it makes sense, go for it. But if it doesn't, you can avoid using that. What makes a website mobile friendly? What makes a website not mobile friendly? Okay, so a website that's mobile friendly is when you can view the website within a handheld device. Most of the time it's their phone, and they can easily read the information on there. They can easily navigate it. They can easily get to the different pages and touch those areas to get from one place to another. What makes a website not mobile friendly is, let's say that their website comes on the phone as if it's on a desktop, meaning that information is super small to read because it's trying to mimic the layout that it looks like on a desktop page, right? So the text is super, super tiny. The buttons are super, super close, they're tiny. You have to scroll or like zoom in just to try to see the information. That can make it not mobile friendly. If things are popping up all the time onto your mobile website, that may be okay when it comes to viewing your website on a desktop, because there's enough surface area. If maybe an ad pops up or something's flying across the screen or something like that. But for the area on like a phone, it may not work as well to have things popping up on the screen and whatnot. So there's different factors. It's all about functionality as far as when it comes to being mobile friendly on the phone. How does it function? Is it easy to navigate? And it doesn't necessarily mean that all the things that are done on the desktop version needs to happen on the mobile version. As long as, they're able to, if you have a product or services, they're able to get the information they need, and they're able to make a purchase. If they're able to do that on your website, that's needed. But some of the animations and things that people may have on their website that's on a desktop, they may not have that visible on the phone version because it may not work as well. So hopefully it answers your question as well. I see a lot of people put comment characters that are fun, that has a purpose, but not really. Our artists are all comic fun, etc. But I agree, test that with some friends. Yeah, definitely test it out. Yeah, some people are using like different trends. I would say when it comes to their website design, maybe using caricatures or whatnot. 2D design. You have like Headspace that does that a lot and whatnot. Does anybody have any other questions for me at the moment? All right. Any comments or anything that you like to say before we head out in a couple of minutes?
Thank you. It was very informative.
Thank you so much. I'm glad as well. And again, I don't want to take up too much of your time, and thank you so much if you hung in there with me as well today. Going over all this information, I know it's a lot, but you'll definitely have access to this as well with the email. So expect that soon in your email box. And I'm glad that you're able to learn a lot from today. So thank you so much for joining me, and also Lake Worth Beach as well. And I hope you all have a good day. All right, bye-bye.